morning and namaste everyone. This is Hindu Lounge and Hindu Lounge is brought to you by Hindu Pact. Hindu Pact is the policy research and advocacy initiative of World Hindu Council of America or VHPA, and we come live every Sunday at 11 o'clock Eastern. I am Ajay Shah, I'm the president of World Hindu Council of America, and with me as always is Utsoda. And Utsoda, as everyone knows by now, being intellectual, I guess, Utsoda, is that we kind of up a notch every week on your title, and he's also an executive director of the pact. So that today we have several guests, and it's a special show. We are going to talk about a initiative that the pact has, which is one of our flagship initiatives. Actually, it's called Chingari, Coalition for Hindu Girls Abducted and Their Rights. These are the girls who are 12, 13, 14-year-old. They're abducted from Sindh in Pakistan. Mostly Hindu girls, 3 a day, about 1,000 a year, as per the reports from Pakistani Human Rights Commission, no less. And these are the girls who are abducted. They're 12 years, 13, 14 years old. They are forcibly converted and married off to men who are 50 and 60 years old. This is heart-wrenching. So that this is really, really heart-wrenching. And so we thought about this last November, and Rakhi ji is going to join us. Rakhi Israni is the lead on this project, and we formulated a project called Chingari. And this project, Utsoda, is to create awareness and eventually bring action, not just in US but around the world in different legislative bodies and other places, so that these the voices of these girls are heard, and these girls, no more girls would have to go through this. So as part of this program, yesterday, in about 10 different cities, and there's one today actually in Minneapolis, there was a vigil that was held, and hundreds of people participated in that vigil in totality. And we have several of the people who participated in that vigil. We also have people who helped plan the vigil. So all in all, it's a great show. It's a special. You can call it the online vigil. With that, Utsoda, your introductory remark, and then we bring all our guests into the show. All the guests are live, and more people are joining. As more people join, let me start out with Vandana Tiwari ji, who has made some really, really good videos. I want to start with the videos that introduces the Chingari project, and then during the course of this, I will also play the video that is a collage of all the vigils that were held across the country. Let me play the video that Vandana ji has created, and it is an awesome video. So let me share my screen.
Today, we would like to share with you a human rights issue that has been largely overlooked in the media, and we believe you should know about it immediately. 96% of the population of Pakistan is Muslim. According to government figures, the remaining 4% includes Hindus, Christians, Parsis, Sikhs, and others. Pakistan's controlling theocratic government has made it impossible for religious minorities to become involved in or represented in politics, as written in their constitution.
Each year, it is estimated that 1,000 young Pakistani girls of minority religions are forcibly converted to Islam. Not only are they under the age of consent, but thrown into abusive marriages with much older men. These girls should be pursuing an education or marrying the person they love. Imagine those privileges being taken away from your own sister or even your own daughter. This is the story of 3 innocent girls in Pakistan every day. Taken from their homes, forced to live a life they don't understand, coerced into a non-consensual marriage with an older stranger, and abused. How many more girls need to be kidnapped, converted, and married off before we take unified action? urgency for action comes from the inaction of the Pakistani government. In a majority of these kidnapping and forced conversion cases, rapists walk free and their victim is forced to remain married to them. All that is needed is a false document and the word of her husband, and a young girl is sentenced to a life of abuse. Many girls have publicly stated that they would rather die than be assaulted every day and held back from making their own choices.
जो हे चवनि था असांजो मज़हब तब्दील कयो आहे इहो छा आहे तव्हां रज़ा ख़ुशी था कयो
ना मूं पंहिंजी मजबूरी में कयो आहे
छा तव्हांखे मारियो पे
हा मूंखे मारियो बि मजबूरी में कयो आहे जे न करे हा त मुंहिंजा माइट मिट कोन हुआ
The Chingari Project is a social justice campaign aimed towards bringing awareness across the globe about the atrocities that young innocent Hindu girls face in Pakistan each day. Through informative advocacy, we seek to make our local U.S. representatives aware of the unstable religious situation in Pakistan and take further action to convey their disapproval.
Into your eyes and say everything will be okay. And where you're home is saving from the worst. May I secure that earth. May I secure that earth.
So as you saw, and most of the participants here were part of this effort, we had about 10 cities across America which were directly holding vigils across the country. And these vigils addressed one very core issue, which is the issue of the minority girls, especially the Hindu girls in Pakistan. Now, in the past many decades, on an average, every day, 3 Hindu girls are forcibly converted to Islam in Pakistan. And that is something that has been going on for decades. The country, which has a very, very small number of Hindu community members and other minority community members, and that has been decreasing rapidly over the past 7 decades. For that to have this kind of forced conversion, abduction, and physical abuse leading to trafficking, this is really serious. And the fact that the world has not spoken about it is the reason why we had to start the Chingari project and why we had the vigils. And this is just the beginning. So thank you, Vandana ji, for joining. Vandana Tiwari Sharma is our director for all things creative. So whatever we have done, including the videos that you saw and the graphics that you see on our Twitter account, on our Instagram account, and everything that was related to the promotion of the vigil, along with the Chingari team, whose members we will have here as well and who will speak with us, Vandana ji has been leading the effort. So Vandana ji, give us your opinion about what you think about the Chingari project and what brought you into this initiative.
So Chingari project is the brainchild of Ajay Shahji, and I'm so thankful that we have this solid project that Hindu Pact has started. And you're giving me all the credit for the graphics, but I think you have taught me what all has gone into Chingari. And you know, behind the scenes, you are the person who surges, who's the energy behind what I do. Thank you so much for that. So what brought me to Chingari project is that simply because I'm a woman. And I know, coming from India, every woman gets molested somewhere, and you know the pain, and you can totally relate to what these girls go through. I have a daughter, and I cannot even fathom what these mothers might be feeling. I've seen a couple of videos where this woman is crying outside the house, and she's saying, Arzu, Arzu, come out. I cannot even imagine if my daughter was inside that house and I am there in her shoes. How will I feel? And not, I don't know. So I would just urge everybody who's watching this show, when you're having parties, when you're having sari parties, or have fun, but feel a little guilty. Feel a little guilty that Hindus. There is a saying in United States: no one should be left behind in military, camp invasion, or like not the invasion, but when we go and protect our army men. Same thing, Vasudev Kutumbakam. No Hindus should be left behind. These girls who are suffering, in Pakistan, it was not their fault. In 1947, when our India and Pakistan was created, no future generation knew that when I will be born, I will be going through this kind of stuff. So it's our duty that we should rescue them, or put some pressure on our legislative body in United States. Make them aware that this is happening there. It was not their fault. Some of the people who were just grazing their cattle on the land, and they were mowing, whatever they were doing, and they were not even aware that Gandhiji and Nehruji and Jinnah got this 2 pieces of lands are like now Pakistan and India, and they're like, what? They had no idea. Now their daughters are suffering because of some of the decisions some people took in 1947. So we should feel a little guilty of the joys, of the pleasure that we are having, and that's what's called Vasudev Kutumbakam, and no Hindu girls should be left behind, and we should help them. That's what I would say. Thank you.
Thank you, Vandana ji. And we have Ankush here, Ankush Bhandari, who is a prominent member of the community in New York. And Ankush is if I can, for lack of better phrase, is a one-man army, if I can put it that way. So Ankush was at Times Square yesterday talking about the situation for the minority girls in Pakistan, and how they are abused and kidnapped. So Ankush, would you like to add something? How did you get connected to the Chingari project, and what inspired you?
Okay, first of all, namaste everybody. So being a Hindu, and being a writer, sometimes I go through my writings, and when I write on certain articles like blasphemy, I came to know the original apathy which the minorities in Pakistan face. And when I spoke with you, Vandanaji, and couple of my people in my group, Sudaji, I came to know about the Chingari project, and I think that's the best time if we can hit the nail. And that should be the final nail in the coffin of Pakistan atrocities on the minorities. So in this way, I get associated with the Chingari project. So that's your answer, Utsav. And just want to clarify one thing. Yesterday, Nitiji was also with me on the Times Square. So me and Nitiji was there because the festivity going on in our community of Ganesh Utsav. So everybody is pretty busy, I think, on this occasion, and being the weekend and last year pandemic. So everybody want to do the Ganesh Visarjan and the puja on the weekend at their homes. So
wonderful. And my thanks to Nitiji for being at Times Square. The pictures were very informative, and thanks for spending so much time with the people there and educating the people there. So we have Deepti Mahajanji as well, as along with Sudha Nair. Thank you, Sudhaji. Sudhaji, tell us about what happened in Las Vegas, and I saw that you were able to engage the community. You had councilwomen there, you had staffers for the lawmakers there. Tell us more about the event yesterday, and then we will go forward with more discussion about the project itself.
Okay, namaste everybody, and I just want to take a moment to say I got involved in it because Rakhi called me, and I think Ajayji had put a plug in for me to become part of the project, and I have to say I'm very thankful. Because, of course, we see the news every day about what's happening in Pakistan, and there is a sense of helplessness that we can do anything, especially that video of the girl, standing on something and over the fence, crying for help. And it touches your heart, and it's like, what can we do? What can we do? And you can't just pluck her out and bring her out. I wish we could. So I'm very happy to be part of the Chingari project. And also planning for this, one of the great things we did was we decided to contact all of the Congress women, right? Because they are mothers and daughters and sisters, and we thought that is the best place to start. I have to say it's been a great strategy. And it's opened doors for us. It's been good. So I used that to, our first conversation was with the Office of Congresswoman Susie Lee. And her community director is Jerry Schroeder, and she's always been very generous in giving us time. And I have to say, there's a little bit difference in being in Las Vegas versus, let's say, Bay Area. In Las Vegas is small. And I'm beginning to find out what the advantages of being in a small city. You have access to the leaders. They're willing to take time from you. So Congresswoman Susie Lee's office gave us the time. We did the presentation, and before the call, I had asked Jerry, are there NGOs that work with you on this? And she said, there are NGOs who work on women's issues. Why don't you team up with them? So she put me in touch with two NGOs. One is Cupcake for Girls, and the second one is Bamboo Bridges. So Bamboo Bridges works on the trafficking of women, especially Asian women in Las Vegas. Of course, Las Vegas being the Sin City has, is a big place for making money off of women. And so she had been working in this area for 10 years. She got the legislature to pass laws. She knows the governor. So when I first called her onto this Chingari call and said, we are going to do this vigil, she said, oh, I can bring 5,000 people. And I'm like, oh, what? I can't even talk to 5 Hindus. And she's going to bring 5,000 people. I said, okay, Mindy, I don't want 5,000 people. I'd like 10 people. So anyway, it ended up that we had only 10 people yesterday. But that's not the point, okay? Susie Lee's office and Mindy from Bamboo Bridges have reached out to a lot of places. Yesterday, what happened was there is a competing event happening in Las Vegas called Life is Beautiful. It's music and art festival. Of course, everybody wants to go there and drink wine, right? So they didn't come to the part. But we had the councilwoman, Mindy had talked to the councilwoman, Michelle Fiore. She sponsored the event, meaning if she wasn't there, I would have had to pay $250, expecting like 50 people, right? But she took care of it. And the park services was also, the contact who called me was a woman. She said, I wish I could be there. This is a wonderful idea, wonderful thought. So yesterday, Michelle Fiore came, she talked a little bit about this stuff. I have now asked her office to give us time so we can update her on Chingari. She knows the word Chingari. She doesn't know what it is, right? So we had this nice banner, and she was very kind to give us pictures, and her staffer has taken a good video. I did not want to send you all a crappy video we took. So I'm hoping for her good video. And she wants us to do this again and again and again. So I think we will plan for December with being the Human Rights, UN Human Rights Day sometime, and we'll plan, and I'm hoping I'll have at least 1,000 people. I hope, okay? Keeping my fingers crossed. But the good thing is that the day before this event happened, I was invited to a Ganesh Chaturthi Puja at an Indian home where there were at least 30-35 people. And they gave me time, and they are HSS, some of them. They gave me time to talk about what the vigil was about, what Chingari is all about. I have to say, they're all enthused. and some of them came yesterday, and they're so happy that now we have the Hindu community with the politicians, and we have a cause that we can take forward in many, many different ways. So I am very happy, even though I only had like a dozen people, and some of them, I have to tell you, they were sitting and having a picnic there. I went and talked to them and said, please come and listen to the councilwoman speak. They were happy. They were Caucasians. They came, listened, and they applauded. So the thing is that this message has resonance. We have to keep it going. And I'm very happy to work with Shreya, Kiran, and Raki, and all the wonderful women and men. You know, Ankush is our only male in that particular working group, but I'm very happy to have him. Thank you.
Thank you, Sudhaji. Thank you for giving us your experience. And we have here with us Deepti ji. And Deepti ji, tell us more about how you got inspired by this project, and how was the vigil yesterday, and tell us more about how you feel and what's the message you gave yesterday.
Thank you, Utsavji. So just to get started, Utsavji, so how I got involved was that I'm working with Vandadi on multiple projects, but this was something that hit home with me. This is the most basic, humanitarian cause that anyone would feel from their heart. Being a mother, being a girl, being a minority in this country, we hear about how America, how this country where we've settled down, we have made home, how this country has gone through hundreds of years of slavery, and there's so much that this country has seen. We cannot fathom that kind of a thing happening in these times in some other country and be quiet about it. So just thinking, getting up every single day and thinking right now, some girl, some child might be taken away from their family, their parents, and they're hiding, and they're just it's just heartbreaking. So that is one thing which just hit home with me, and that's I am going to be involved with this project and do as much as I can as a volunteer. I'm full in. And so another reason is that growing up and in last few years, I have read so much about the genocides that have happened, and then other things like Rwanda happening and Holocaust happening. Growing up, we don't think about this, but now that I'm what were our parents doing? What were people doing in those times to stop these things? How did we let this happen? And that is the idea that comes to our mind, that this is exactly what is happening right now. 20 years later, if my kids grow up and they ask me, what did you do? Where were you guys? What were you doing when these girls were being taken away? And I am, that is something which is very, very extremely appalling. How will we answer to ourselves, to our future generations, when we let this happen right now in this time of, especially with this, with these days when you have so much social media and you can create that awareness, So that is something which keeps me awake at night. And like Vandana said, people are, I would say a lot of people are, awakening, and they're realizing. And a couple of things that happened in the Bay Area yesterday. We had a very, very good vigil in the Bay Area. And so a lot of honking, people were looking at our posters and what we were standing there for. And the few things happened is that people who were driving around, they actually parked their cars and came and joined the vigil. So this lady comes and talks to me oh, your posters are very small, we should make bigger posters. I was driving and I saw this and I came and joined. And I was this is the kind of awareness and involvement that we need from people and from public now. So it was the whole effort yesterday in all different cities and everything that people did on a Saturday evening, coming out and talking about this humanitarian issue is what we need, and we will keep working on it.
That's fantastic, and I think that's the feeling that many other people had. I remember once there was a truck that was traveling through DC, a digital truck, which had a similar theme. And people would literally stop the driver of the truck on the street and express their support for what's going on. So I think there is a growing critical mass of people around America and around the world, actually, who are beginning to see the tragedy of what is happening in Pakistan. And the sad part is that this has been happening for 70 years. But I think there is hope. And as we go forward into our show, we will be talking about what we can all do. Because what you saw yesterday in terms of the vigil is the first step. And I think there is a long way to go, and there is a lot to catch up for because of the inaction over the last 70 years. So what I'm going to do now is to play a small video of a montage that Vandanaji has prepared of all the towns and cities where the rally actually happened. So you can take a look at. It's a very fast montage, so I'm just going to quickly play it. I would like to invite Shreya. You guys are the star of the effort here, and with all the energy and the initiative that people have taken across the country to give voice to the minorities of Pakistan, if there are people who deserve credit for all the background work that was done for it, Shreya is one of them. And Shreya is an intern with Hindu Pact, and she has done a fabulous job. And today I don't see Kiran here, but Kiran is also another person who has worked so much for this effort. So Shreya, tell us about how you got connected. Tell us the whole story. And you have a long way to go on this project, but we are inspired by you. So please tell.
Namaste everyone. It's great to be here. I know Kiran was not able to make it, but I'm here to just say our efforts have been equal. She's been also a monumental part of this project. And I think so. I started at Hindu Pact in February of this year. I joined as a research intern, and the first thing that Rakhi, our team leader, did was she showed us the articles that were published in reputable newspapers about this issue. And then we went to seeing the pictures and the videos. And I think that was kind of a pivotal point where I sort of realized that this was much bigger than, what some people might call an India versus Pakistan issue, or just like a, religious tension type thing. It's a humanitarian crisis. And it's truly gotten to a point where on Twitter, there are these viral videos of girls that are sobbing, asking to go back home. Parents are desperate, yet we still are not seeing action from anyone who has power. And I think that's I guess what propelled us to make this project and to start these efforts. But yeah, it's been a long way coming, deciding, who we want to reach out to, how we want to formulate this project in a way that we can get the support of people and we can get them to see that this is truly an issue of women having no agency over their life and young girls having no right to choose how they live their life because of where they live and because they were born into a situation where they were born without those rights. It's hard to see the videos, and it's, as a teenager in America, I'm a senior right now in high school, and I sit in my room and I'm doing this research, and I just think, like, with all the privilege that I've been born into, I have agency over my life. I have the access and the opportunity to, get an education, practice religion however I want in America. It's definitely a factor in why I'm so passionate about this. And I think it's a reason that I believe young people in America should be more passionate about this issue and should be just more open to learning about, this humanitarian crisis. So I guess that's my 2 cents on that as like a young person in the United States, navigating that. And then yesterday in Atlanta, we actually had the chance to go in front of the CNN headquarters and just stand there with our banner. And I think that was really impactful. We were actually standing right next to Mercedes-Benz stadium, and there was a huge soccer game that happened. And so there was literally a crowd of like 1,000 people walking in our direction, and we were just holding the banner up, and there was tons of support and tons of awareness that happened yesterday. And I think it was definitely a step in the right direction. So, yeah.
And you folks are the one who are going to be leading this in the future. And I think the girls in Pakistan who go through this tragedy, they are looking towards our communities, our youth in America and around the country, around the world, where we have privilege, we have power, we have resources to come and stand by them. What is really tragic here is that most of the world doesn't know that even though Pakistan is a country that has existed for 7 decades, the Hindus of Pakistan have been there for the past 7,000 years of recorded history. Obviously, before that, not much records exist. So they are the natives of the land. They are the indigenous people. And right now, they are less than 2% of the population and diminishing 3 girls every day. So if this is not a crisis, I don't know what is. And I think the fact that this has not been observed around the world or given attention to, it speaks a lot, not just about the apathy of the global community, but also our own Hindu community. Because we Hindus who come to America, many of us as immigrants, and many who are American born here and are part of the society, very rarely talk about this. And that is on us. So thank you, Shreya, for bringing this on and being the voice. The future is all yours, and we hope that you will be making a big difference that we haven't been able to make in the past generations. So thank you so much for joining us today, and keep working. Thank you so much. So I will now go to Deepa Karthik ji. Oh, Deepa ji is here. Thank you, Deepa ji. Namaste. So tell us more about what you are doing, and because people will not get what you are exactly doing when you're saying you're distributing flyers. And then tell us how you got connected to the Chingari project and what your inspiration has been. But first, tell us what you're doing right now and why you're doing it.
Okay, right. So I'm running for the Board of Education, right? So here is my flyer, if everybody can see it. I am outside distributing it along with my slate mate, Jay. Here, I live in South Brunswick, New Jersey. So I'm running for the school board ed. And the reason I'm doing this is because as a community, we don't have sufficient participation in public office, and it's extremely important for us to do that. I urge everybody to sort of make time and also sort of look into it. When we look at public offices, it's extremely important for us to get our voices heard. Many of us believe that if we just keep our head down and just continue doing what we're doing, that things will be better for us. But I don't believe that will be the case. I think we all have to kind of step up and contribute in public office. And I think that's where we can make the best impact. So, Utsavji, coming to the next part of your question, how I got involved. Ajay ji was very kind enough to point me to the effort. I was so inspired by Rakhi, Shreya, and Kiran. I decided to be part of Chingari because I think, especially in a country like Pakistan, it's the news that we receive from there. It's a country we are very well aware of. We won't have open. Whatever we hear in the press is probably what the administration there wants us to hear. There are a lot of atrocities being basically forced upon religious minorities, mainly Hindus, since we are the most non-vocal and the most silent community. I think it's very important for us, no matter where our people are being oppressed, we have to stand up, we have to come out, we have to be the voices that they don't have. So I got inspired by Rakhi, Shreya and Kiran. They are very brilliant minds. and they did an excellent job here. I tried to help as much as I could. But I think there's a lot of work to be done, and I'm so grateful to be part of the entire Chingari project team that has contributed so much to this effort.
Thank you, Deepaji. And what you mentioned is very important, that even though the Hindu American community is one of the most educated communities in America, it is one of the most affluent communities in America, there is very little political engagement and very little political muscle that the community has projected so far. So that is something that is lacking, and we have to do an introspection in terms of why that is the case and why the community is so passive in terms of its political engagement. So thank you, Deepaji, for taking part in the political process. That's how democracies thrive. And you come from a state that is extremely diverse. So it is very, very important that the Hindu American community becomes part of the political process at all levels.
I do have questions for Deepa, a couple of questions for Deepa. So Deepa, New Jersey being such a hotbed for all the Indian activities, what do we need to do? Because this was the first round, and everyone is kind of getting into this, and we are just starting out on Chingari project in many ways, even though the efforts actually started last November. But in reality, we are just kind of picking up, and we are just at a stage where the project is now public and is getting traction outside the small group that was organizing it. So what do you foresee happening in the next few months in New Jersey, especially because we have this is a long battle, right? So what do you anticipate people in New Jersey doing?
So a couple of things, right, Ajayji. So yes, as Utsavji rightly pointed out, I want to first take it from there. Most of New Jersey is heavily populated with Indians, right? We all know that. It's all known. And when we say Indians, by default, we are pointing to a Hindu community. I do have very, very few, if I would say, Indian friends who are non-Hindus, but that's I can say few and far in between. 90% of the Indians here are Hindus. I sense a lot of political apathy. For this particular project to be successful, we need a lot of voices. We need, I know that some of our colleagues and our friends here in the Chingari team have faced a lot of backlash for bringing this topic up, simply because we feel this is rape is a universal issue. We are confusing the tools used for forced conversion versus the methods and modus operandi. So I would request that everybody in New Jersey, whoever is listening, please use whatever means are available to you. If you're talking to people in social circles, please spread awareness. If you're active on social media, please retweet, spread the news via Facebook. There will always be the naysayers. You'll always get backlash. Please do not be demotivated. I think we have a lot of avenues to spread awareness about forced religious conversions, especially about our Hindu community, because the biggest challenge we face is Hindus themselves want to deny their own genocide. They want to deny their own oppression. So please do not be afraid to speak up. You won't be making enemies. Yeah, you will not be making best friends, but it's all for a good cause. So please spread the word as much as you can. And again, I always tell my friends, if you don't have the time to spread awareness or get involved in projects, please donate and support the causes that are working towards this. So please provide some financial support, provide social media support, and have your speak about it wherever you go.
Okay, thank you very much, Deepa. I really, I do want to thank you for all the contributions that you have made. I also want to wish you all the best for your campaign. I hope that there are more people who get inspiration from what you're doing and start running for local offices and present a Hindu viewpoint, because it's a viewpoint that really needs to be heard. So good luck to you, and all the best. Okay, and continue the good fight.
Thank
so
you.
We have Paroji here next. Thank you, Paroji, for joining us, and that's our Houston team. So she has done fabulous job from Houston, and yesterday you had a very successful vigil. Tell us first how you got involved with the Chingari project. how you feel about it, and then tell us about yesterday's vigil, because it's a long journey that we have started and we have a long way to go.
Sure. So namaste everybody, and thank you Utsavji and Ajayji for inviting me to this forum. I term myself as an accidental activist, and I used to be engaged on social media prior to the mess that happened with President Trump's removal from social media. And that's where I saw the first alarming trends of this Hindu hate that was brewing and being normalized as the thing to do. And I was always brought up in a very secular-minded, liberal, plural family in Bengal, and had the typical upbringings of a Bengali intellectual that said, move on, and you have to fight for people who are weak and speak up. Then I find myself in a situation where I'm looking at all this hate on social media, and there's hardly any pushback except for a few groups. And then I started following HAF, and the Hindu Students Council, and Kona popped up a little bit later. Then I tried to find out, who were working on the political side. I think that's, and after looking a bit, I saw Hindu Pact was had a Twitter handle. So I started following all these handles. And then when I took myself off of social media because it was just too overwhelming and too toxic for me, I tried to see what I could do on the ground. So I connected with my local HSS folks because they had gotten a very bad rap on social media as being this fringe, ultra right-wing group. And I found a group of very disciplined, well-intentioned social workers with the best intent for society as a whole as their driving force. And as I started to follow more stories everywhere in the media, patterns started to emerge that was making it very clear that there was a concerted effort to drive a narrative around Hindus in general, and slowly getting more and more specific to the Hindu community in America. And I have to say, one of the things that when I landed in America and decided to take American citizenship, which wasn't too long ago, it was about 2 years ago that I actually got my American citizenship, I felt a kind of relief in not having to identify with or be associated with the day-to-day communal politics in India, and to be able to hold my own as a Hindu American citizen that would have all the freedoms and liberties afforded to all American citizens without regard to religion or any other identity. And then to suddenly have that threatened was a wake-up call for me. So I started, somebody introduced me to VHPA. I attended the initial meeting just as a guest, and slowly got more and more regular, just attending the meetings and listening and participating when I could. When the Chingari project was introduced, just before that, I think there were some videos of a young girl in Pakistan who had been kidnapped, and from her family, the family had pleaded for help, and there were videos of the girl somehow escaping to the rooftop of her abductor's place and screaming out for help. And when I saw that, I broke, and I thought, we have to do something. I mean, these are our extended family. The Hindu family is a very dynamic family. We do not like being put in boxes, but if we can't speak up for our own people in the environment where they are threatened the most, we have to ask ourselves, what do we exactly stand for? And when we go out and participate in other social causes for other communities, we need to take a long, hard look at ourselves and see whether it's all face value or there is really a driving force within us. So that's my journey into the Chingari project. And I'm so glad that VHPA, Hindu Pact, and the team has taken this initiative, because this is truly speaking up for people that do not have a voice.
Paroji, I have a question for you, and what you said was so touching. It really was. I mean, the real emotions just came out, and it was very, very touching to hear that. I have one question for you. What would you tell someone who is a first-time activist/advocate, right? I mean, some of us have been doing this advocacy work for a very long time, and some of us have joined, and they're in last 1 year, 6 months, a few weeks. But so you are, fairly new to this, right? I mean, you've been doing it very recently. What is it that you would tell someone who is on the sidelines and kind of not sure that is this something, what is the experience that you have as a somewhat new activist or advocate?
So Deepa ji put out a lot of good pointers. One of the things I would say, trust your gut feeling. If you have a sense of unease when these type of problems and situations are placed before you, that means your internal systems are telling you to get involved. There is a saying that goes, thou dost protest too much. So if people are protesting and even just listening to these stories, they already know that there's something wrong. They're just trying to find a reason to stay away, because you are going to face certain situations that you have not anticipated, and that includes losing your friends or having friends call you certain things that you never thought they would. I am from a pharmaceutical school, and I left my alumni group at Jadavpur University from my year, because every time I raised any issues, I got hit with the, go drink cow urine jibes kind of thing. And you're just a troublemaker that wants to have a reason to go against another community. So these are given. All of us will attest to that. But if your sleep is disturbed and you're thinking about a way to justify how not to get involved, that's probably a more sure indication that you need to get involved.
Thank you, Paroji.
We have with us Rakhi Israni. So Rakhi, I would like to welcome Rakhi for being the lead of this project. And thank you, Rakhi, for joining us. And we have a full deck here. We have one of the most successful vigils across the country that I have seen, and 9 cities and more happening, and this is just the beginning. So Rakhi, tell us.
So before Rakhi, before you go, I just want to tell you that it's been a long journey, right? And I think as with any long journey, there are ups and downs, and I think you've gone through all of that in terms of sometimes you're 3 people meeting, and sometimes there are 20 people meeting, and all that. And I think you went through such a tough challenge in getting this together, and we're just starting. And so I think you deserve so much credit for pulling this project through. And I think yesterday has to be one of the proudest days in your long tenure as a Hindu advocate, right?
Oh, it definitely was. It was a great team. I mean, as I was just listening to Paroji, that we all need to get involved, and the team that I was working with, Paroji and everyone else, that they're so connected to this emotionally, right? As mothers or as sisters or as daughters, that it was actually easy to kind of propel this forward. In the long run. I mean, and I know that we will be successful in what we're hoping to do, because a lot of this is coming from the heart of trying to help these little girls. It's actually what Paruji just said, that these are our extended family. And we, as we have a duty to help our brother or sister, we have a duty to help these little girls as well.
Rakhi, tell us about how you got involved in this project, and because you have a background with the part of the world that we are discussing. Probably amongst all of us who are speaking on this project, we are all Hindus from different parts of the world, and we are involved because the lives and the futures of the Hindu communities and the Sikh communities and the other minorities in Pakistan are involved. But Rakhi has a personal connection to that region. So tell us more about your personal background, Rakhi, and tell us, how that has played a role in you being so passionate about it. I mean, you're passionate about Hindu issues everywhere in the world, but there is a personal story here as well.
Yeah, so, my parents, we're Sindhis, I used to hear my parents, my mother and my father were about 5, 6, 7 years old when partition happened in 1947, and we used to always hear these stories, not from them, but from my older uncles and aunts, and as to what happened when they migrated from from Pakistan to India. And it was the partition of India is, a lot of historians have said it was the largest displacement of people in the world. Over 1 million people were displaced. And the worst part is that my parents, my uncle, my dad's older brother used to tell us that they were lucky that they actually were going by ship, right, after they left Pakistan. And once you left, then you knew that you were safe and you would get into India. And so we had a lot of family that stayed back in Pakistan, because if you look at the message that was given at the time of partition, that even Pakistan was supposed to be a secular nation. And so there were lots of extended family that stayed back in Pakistan. And ultimately, what we saw even before the constitution, before Pakistan became really kind of a formal nation, even then there was calls to make it more Islamic and less secular, more communal, and then you slowly see, like if you look at that history, you see this deterioration in rights, based on religion. Properties taken away, and so the people that were well off and that wanted to stay back for economic reasons, they slowly lost their property and they slowly lost their ways of making a living. And now we're at a point, and I think the whole anti-CAA stuff really kind of woke this up for me, that here are people that are fleeing, and they're obviously fleeing for some reason, and they're living in refugee camps in India and in other neighboring countries. And you have to see why, right? And you start to look at these individual stories of just how life is so difficult for other Sindhis or other Punjabis or other people that are staying in Pakistan, that it's tragic, right? I mean, you look at the start of partition, and there were stories of families who, because there was such a lockdown, and the stores are closed and the restaurants are closed and all the food establishments, and the government were only giving rations to Muslim families. You had fathers from like the Hindu community, the Christian community, or the Sikh community that were crying that they couldn't feed their children because there was no food available. And that's a whole other level of desperation. But what's going on with these little girls is even, I mean, as a mother of little girls, the idea that someone could snatch them away from me and that there'd be absolutely no recourse, that the police aren't going to help me, and the justice system is not going to help me, and the legal system is not going to help me in any way, is atrocious. That was the primary motivation, is that you can take away someone's livelihood, but when you get to the point where you take away their the most valuable part of their existence, like even more than maybe your own arm, is your child, and that there be no way to rectify the situation or to get justice. I mean, that's our biggest fear in life, right? That there wouldn't be justice in a place where you see injustice, especially when it happens to you. And so I think that was the primary motivation.
Rakhi, how did you go about bringing people together and building a team? I know that you have a lot of experience. You started with, the Bal Bihars and camps, and then you did quite a bit of work for Hindu Students Council, and you continue to help so many other Hindu organizations, right? But this is but this was you had to kind of build a team, build a narrative, all of that coming together. How did you go about doing that?
Actually, it's like I said earlier that you have these emotional stories that are coming out almost every day, right? You see these little girls crying and screaming, like the one that I don't know if it was shown earlier, this Leyland Kohli, in the way that her mother is wailing right next to her, and that there's calls for her to be returned back to her abductor, or there's girls. You see these videos of these girls that are like screaming and crying and just want to be next to their mother. I mean, so actually that was probably the biggest way to get people to pay attention. But on our team we have, I think almost everyone is a mother in some way, or has an emotional connection to some child. You watch these videos and there's this desire to help and to be involved. And so I think that the whole process became a lot easier because that emotion was so strong to push people forward.
Rakhi, what is next?
So, our goal is our end goal of this is to push the U.S. government, who gives billions of dollars to Pakistan, to, if you're going to give money to someone, at least ensure that they follow, or they have, or they ensure that the same values that you'd want your own citizens to have are being given in countries like that. And that's the saddest part, is that U.S. is blindly giving them money, and here they are like the bullies of the world, right? And they're just using it to further bully others, and in this case, their own citizens. The Pakistani government has a duty to their citizens to take care of them. And this is quite the opposite, as they're using U.S. funding to bully, to torture, to persecute these families that actually have no money anyways. They don't have any property, and then like I said, they're taking away their parts of their life. So our goal is to approach all the lawmakers, whether it's at the city level or the state level or the federal level, and get them to take action. If you want to give a nation like that money, fine, but have some accountability, right? Ensure that the money you're giving is actually being used for the purposes that you say it should be used for, or don't give it and go the other way. Sanction them until they actually give you they provide the same type of values that you'd want your own citizens to have.
Utsada, over to you.
Thank you. And Rakhi, what is very important that everybody should know and should act upon is that this is not happening in a vacuum. There are political and religious and social leaders in Pakistan who encourage this, sanction this, and even give money to people who indulge in these kinds of activities. So there is a gentleman named Mia Mittu, who is a cleric at a Sufi shrine named Barchundi Sharif in Sindh. He himself has claimed that he has personally been involved in forced conversion of Hindu women, amounting to approximately 30,000 girls in the last few years. So this is him bragging about his credits, and he's an individual, a senior respected religious leader from a Sufi shrine, very popular in Sindh, who has been part of the Pakistan People's Party, the Pakistan Muslim League of Nawaz Sharif, as well as now Imran Khan's PTI. So there is mainstream sanction for this kind of cruelty towards the Hindu and other minority communities there. And that is what we have to really talk about here. Because just as you mentioned, Rakhi, in America, people have been engaging Pakistan at different levels. And occasionally there is a talk and conversation about nuclear weapons and their proliferation that is being illegally done by Pakistan. There is talk about terrorism. There is talk about supporting Taliban and Al-Qaeda. But that is not all. Within the Pakistani society, within their everyday life, this is happening, and nobody in the State Department, nobody in the two houses, in the Senate, in the House of Representatives, nobody is talking about it. Nobody's talking about it in the White House. And I think what we have started here is something that has to address that, and that is the end goal of this effort. So, Ajay bhai, would you like to ask Rakhi?
I just wanted to say one thing, that this, all sincerity, I believe that there is no important issue than this for the Hindu community when it comes to Pakistan today. I know that we have terrorism as a big issue. I know that the Indian Jawans are at the border fighting Pakistan every single day. But when it comes to actually impacting the lives of people, who are day-to-day lives of people in Pakistan, for people who are sitting in America, if we were sitting in India, it would be a different conversation. But for people like us who are sitting in America and who think about the Hindu cause, the human rights issues, and the Hindu cause outside of America, I don't see a more important issue than this, because certainly we are not in India. We are not at the forefront, at the border in Kashmir or at the border in other, in other parts where India and Pakistan face off. Is that we are not out in the streets of Delhi or in the streets of Uttar Pradesh facing the daily terrorism that Pakistan is unleashing on India. We are not in the center of all the love jihad that is being carried on in India. We are sitting in America. So as American Hindus, if we want to participate, if we want to make a contribution, if we want to really fight for the Hindu cause, there is no bigger cause than Chingari, what Chingari offers. At least that is the way I look at it. That what else can be bigger than saving 1,000 girls a year who are kidnapped, and forcibly converted, married off, things like that. So I sincerely hope that we can impress upon not just the people, not just the lawmakers, but the Hindus in America, that here is a cause, here is a Hindu cause. You can certainly, if you want to, you can march for the farmers in India, or if you can march for building a dam or not building a dam in India. But if you really want to make a difference in the lives of people, there is no bigger cause. There is no bigger cause than this. And I'm so glad. I just want to say one thing. I'm so glad and I'm so proud of this team, with Rakhi and Shreya, Kiran, Deepa, and Deepti ji and Paro ji, and especially Bandana ji for all the impressive videos, and Ankush ji for standing alone, and Sudha ji for bringing all her marketing expertise to bear on this project. And I hope she is still here and listening. But Sudha ji, or with all the grassroots level activism she has done in Las Vegas. I mean, and we are just naming a few people. There are a lot more people involved in organizing this. I cannot be prouder of the way this project has gone. Rakhi, sorry, there's not a question that I had. I just had to make that comment. But anything you want to add?
I guess there's one thing, and I just, asked me earlier about what kind of pushed me towards this, and definitely my Sindhi connection and the stories I used to hear was a big part of this. But there's one other story I do want to tell, and it's kind of weighed on my mind through this entire thing that my parents came here in the late 60s, and my older brother, he's 4 years older than me, but when he came, my parents spoke to him only in Sindhi. So by the time he started kindergarten, he only spoke Sindhi. He couldn't speak a word of English. My parents have told me many times in the last year that 1 year of his kindergarten was a really difficult year, because his teacher, I don't know if she was racist or what, but she absolutely could not stand having him in the class, and she would not let him eat lunch. She would make him stand at the door. She would say things like, "Yeah, even looking at you, I feel like ripping your eyes out." And and I've asked my parents many, many times, "Why didn't you talk to the principal? Why didn't you do something?" And their answer was, and my parents are very highly educated and they're very well established, and they're no way lacking for anything, but their whole thing was we didn't know what to do. The system was like that, and we just had to let it happen. And my mom would tell me that it was so hard to send her son to school every day knowing that he was being mistreated in kindergarten. And so that has actually always weighed on me, because in our generation today, I don't think any of us are helpless like that. Like if we see an injustice in our life, we fight it, right? If something happens to our child, we can step up and do something about it. And to know that my parents, who, my father has a PhD and, they're very well established and everything, that they felt a level of helplessness in their life for their child and still had to send him back into that in that situation day after day, even today, they both feel it, right? That this happened and they couldn't do anything about it. And I think if things had happened today, that things would be obviously very different. But the families in Pakistan, theirs is a whole other level of helplessness, right? I mean, it's not just that they lack education or they lack money. The system itself, from the police to the courts, to the legal system, to the government, they're all against them. You talk about systemic racism. I mean, it's built into that system that you will not get justice. You can do whatever you want. You can scream as loud as you want. And so the only justice these people are going to get is from us, right? Putting pressure on our governments, whether it's here or in Australia or in UK or Canada, to put pressure on these governments that you are supporting a country that is not only a menace to the entire world, but menace to your own people. And so I just wanted to share that story because anyone who says, well, we can't do anything, well, you need to try. I think everyone has.
Raki, I know we have kind of talked about this in past, and I just want to say, at least my view is that there are, I know that all the minorities in Pakistan go through difficult times. But whenever there is a Christian girl who is abducted, or the BBC is right up front, and so is New York Times and other people. But I think when it comes to Hindu girls, there's really nobody to speak for them. And so we want to build alliances. We want to have we want to speak up for all the minorities in Pakistan. But really, if you want to give a voice to the minority that is really, really voiceless, that is especially the Sindhi Hindus in Pakistan. I mean, they really, really, truly have no one to speak for them. And I think that is something that we want to be cognizant of. That yes, we want to speak for all the minorities and all of that, but really, if you want to give the voice to truly the voiceless, that is the Sindhi community in Pakistan. Utsada, I saw an interesting comment in the chat from Dipti Mahajanji, and she said that her family also had to flee Pakistan when her parents were, very, very young. So there are several people in this group who have personal connection to the 1947 partition of India, and whose families had to kind of leave in a very difficult situation. And Ankushji is saying that his parents had to also leave from Sialkot to come to India. So
I wanted to touch base with. Hold on, I just wanted to touch base.
So I think maybe you want to do a one round for all these speakers who have been here, because they all have something to say. So maybe you want to go round robin with all the speakers. But
yes.
Please do ask Raki some more questions before we do the round robin with all the other speakers.
I just wanted to touch base with Vandana ji and Ankush ji, because Ankush ji had waiting for a while. I never asked him about how he was able to communicate with people in New York City, because he had interesting conversations with people in Times Square. So I just wanted to have Ankush ji talk about it before, he's been here since the beginning. So please, Ankush ji, go ahead.
Okay, thanks Utsav bhai for giving me the opportunity. So as you know, Times Square is the hub of all the culture, right? You can find the people from all 190 countries over there. So yesterday when we went, there were a couple of events going on in the Times Square. The first event was against vaccine diplomacy, which is going on in America, and there were a lot of people over there. So when I was standing with them, so they said, we are not aware that this is going on in South Asia or Pakistan or Bangladesh. They were just aware of what's going on in Afghan because of the media presence in Afghanistan and how it's getting hype. And many of the women, especially a very old lady, maybe in 70s, says, oh, I can understand. I am from Armenia. My mother has told me the stories, what happened to her when she was in Armenia. And I can very well relate that how women are being the first victim, whether it's rape or it's conversion, because if there's no woman in the society, then obviously who will run the society? And I think she was 100% correct on that. So it really give me, and then there were a couple of other women whom I was speaking to in that particular event, and everybody was astonished and very surprised at why there is no news of what's going on in Pakistan. They said we just know Pakistan is a terrorist state or it's harvesting terrorism, but we never know that any such thing has happened. And even they were not aware of the term blasphemy. You know, when I told them under this law they are treating the minorities and this type of forced executions and their executions and all those stuff, many people in the West don't know anything about what's going on in that part of the world. And similar thing happened when there was another event which was going over there. It was an infinity card. They have some coupon, and if anybody wins, they can win the card. So I talked with 2-3 person over there who was in that event, who was convening that event, and they were also said, what, forced conversion? Yes, people if want to go for any religion as per Amendment 2nd of America or whatever amendments we have, they can go, but there is nothing like that. You have to say that okay, you have to become Muslim or you have to become Christian or you have to become Buddhist, you know. So what my take on that is that people here are not aware what's going in that part of the world, and we have to do such things more frequently. And
Absolutely.
The second point I want to highlight in the next 30 seconds is that because Tamsky, a lot of tourists came, right? And the time which we choose is 3 to 5 p.m. and we have the most of the rush over there. So people come over there, they take your pictures. They are from Hungary, they are from Poland, they are from Japan, they are from China. They take your pictures, they take your videos, they talk you for 30 seconds or 15 seconds, and then when they post their things on their social media, right, and when they distribute to their group, internal group, then it's become a mass movement. It becomes a movement of the world, not only related to my city or your state or your country. So I think that's the best experience we always have when we are in a lively area like Times Square. So that's what I just want to tell people over here, that we have to be more cognizant, we have to be more vocal, in fact I will say. So it's nothing like that, okay, 18 September gone, we will go back and we will sleep, okay, we have done our work. That's not the case. I think like Sudaji said, in December we should do, but I think before December also, when we have the Durga Ashtami or we have Durga, right, Navaratras coming up, let's do an event on that what is the Durga in meaning in our Sanatana Dharma, and how they are taking our kids, and they are also like we worship on the 9th on Ram Navami, right? Kanya Pujan we used to do, right? Then how they can take our little daughters and just walk away like nothing has happened.
That's a very good point, Ankushji. Very good point, Ankushji. So speaking of Durga Puja and Navratris, actually in what is present day Balochistan, very close to the border with Sindh in Pakistan, is one of the most holy places for the Hindu communities around the world. It's called HinduLounge. It's a Shakti Peeth, and even today, the Pakistani Hindu community, despite so much oppression, despite so much poverty, so much tragedy, continues to keep the tradition of going for pilgrimage to HinduLounge alive in Balochistan. And most of the people who go there are from Sindh and southern Punjab of Pakistan, the Rahim Yar Khan area. So, it is a very resilient community. It has suffered for the past 1,000 years, especially for the past 70 years under the state of Pakistan. And they have continued to try to keep their traditions, their religion alive. So this is up to us, how we can save them and bring them some visibility in the world. So Vandanaji has very rightly pointed out, when I mentioned Mia Mithu in my conversation, I used the word gentleman. For the crimes even though I talked about the crimes he's committing. So Vandanaji rightly pointed out, I shouldn't be calling him gentleman, and she's right, I shouldn't be calling me.
I have been trying to tell Utsavji that for a very long time, that please stop referring to some of these people with the gentleman moniker. They don't deserve to be called gentlemen.
That is correct.
They're not
Mia Mithu is the last person we should be calling a gentleman by any means, because he is a criminal. He's committing crimes against humanity, and if there is ever a chance to bring him to justice globally, we should look for that opportunity. So thank you, Vandanaji, for pointing that out. Thank you, Ajay Bhai, for pointing that out. I do call even the enemy the moniker of gentleman, but that doesn't reduce my angst or my initiative against them. Vandanaji, now back to you. Let me ask you, you are one of the most vocal voices in the community, and you have tremendous amount of determination. You reach out to people. Tell us, what is your message to the American Hindu community, especially the community that is professionally accomplished, are pretty well to do and have good resources at their disposal? Please tell us what you would like to tell them.
I'll tell you what, when I'm going to start from, you always say then don't bring India, but I'm going to bring India here. When I was in India, I did feel this molestation thing, all over. Unfortunately, when I came to United States, I felt free. I'm not scared here. And I am thankful for being in the United States. And I hope my legislators, whoever listens to this HinduLounge, listens that how grateful I am to be in the United States. So having said that, I have a free voice here. I can say whatever I want. So having that First Amendment, speak up. If something is wrong, if you see something, say something, like they say. So even in that, we made this Hindutva flyer, and in that we say, how Hindus our relatives are so important to us. We think that our relatives are our life, and we try to get a green card, bring them here. So this shloka that Ajay Bhai has included in this Hindutva. So it says, I'm not going to chant this shloka because I'm not fluent in Sanskrit, but it ends up in Vasudev Kutumbakam, which means only small men discriminate, saying one is a relative and other is a stranger. For those who live magnanimously, the entire world constitutes but a family. Meaning that if people are left behind in Pakistan, who are our brothers and sisters, like just now Rakhi said, just think about them and be vocal. Listen and talk about it, spread the word. We have to have big billboards around the United States and make as much noise as we can. And you asked me how I bring this, the strength that I have. First, I've experienced this kind of, short version of, molestation sort of a thing. I think all women have in India, so I'm not ashamed of sharing this experience. But, my strength comes from Sanatan Dharma. Being a Hindu, I remember my mother used to take me to this botanical garden in St. John's College, Agra, where I used to think, like, we are in a college. Why are we praying to this tree? And we used to hug the tree. We used to take sweets for the tree. Hindu Dharma teaches us to pray to the tree, think that tree is our own. So these are these little girls who are human beings, and I think stick to the First Amendment and make big noise. And like one day Nikunjan Clubhouse was saying, if you're not going to ask, you're not going to get. So make big noises. That's what I have to say.
Yes, the squeaky wheel gets the most grease, so that is absolutely right. So we and as I said in the beginning of the program, and as I continue to say, this is just the beginning. What our team has put together is just the beginning. There is a long way to go, and we will find success in this.
Let's do a round robin with all the other people. So why don't we start with Sudhaji and get some, and then we'll go to Diptiji, then Paroji, and just do a round robin with some final, thoughts or some intermediate thoughts, whichever way you want to. So Sudhaji, why don't we start with you? Is this really one of the you've been doing advocacy for now what, about a year, or for a long time, or a couple of years, or how long have you been doing the advocacy?
Yeah, I remember I started with Amritanandamayi Devi in San Ramon. I was doing a lot of outreach. That's where I learned how to go connect with the city leaders, bring the mayors and city leaders to meet Amma, That was a big program. That's how I got my feet wet. And then the last couple of years, I've started to become active after the CAA started, right? So now I have learned a lot from my whole experience. And of course, we are charging forward. And one of the many things I've learned is that we cannot be silent about the abuses that the Hindu community has taken over centuries. So that's why I did the Mapla program, and I'm looking forward to doing that with Hindu Pact, because the idea is to raise the level of Hindu abuse to the level of global events, right? So the Shingari project is also, I would say, one of those that need to have same attention at the global level as everything else, right? So with that, what I want to do is, I think I said Las Vegas being small. You have a question, Ajayji?
Yeah, I do have a question actually, because you brought up Mapla, and that was actually going to be my question. And my question was going to be in a more of a, if you take a step back, right? And if you look at, Mapla happened 100 years ago. And Kashmir, all the things that happened in Kashmir happened about 30 years ago. In Bangladesh, the Hindus were, kicked out about 50 years ago. And today we are talking about Chingari. How do you see the connection between these, and especially when it comes to Hindu women?
Yes. Let me also mention something to you. I just put it on another WhatsApp group I had. I was listening to Sandeep Balakrishna and on Jaipur Dialogues, and he said, this is something I knew that slavery was never part of Hinduism. We did not condone or have slavery. It started with the Islamic invasion, right? Islamic invasion is, the Abrahamics always had slavery as part of their culture. So what was shocking was that when they took the Hindus as slaves, it dropped the stock value of slaves in all of the Middle Eastern slave markets. I couldn't imagine that, because millions were taken from India as slaves. So the abuses that the Hindus have undergone goes back to the time of the invasions, right? By these foreigners. So we can say it's been over 1,000 years of abuse, and we don't say anything. So the fact that Chingari is speaking about the abuses of Hindu girls and minority girls in Pakistan, after 70 years of this happening, we have to beat ourselves up. First, give a slap to ourselves that we have been so dense and stupid. But in one way, I don't know if we had a better opportunity before, because we were also struggling with our own survival, right? Come here, slog away, make a living, establish ourselves. So now is a good time. It's better now than later. So let's focus on this, take charge of it. Don't give up. And I have to tell you, there is a big Muslim population in Las Vegas. So I am the council woman said the city has a TV channel and they'd like me to be a guest on it to talk about Chingari. I'm happy to do that. But I'm also afraid that that's going to bring a lot of viciousness at me, and so I need to sort of prepare for that sort of the campaign that's going to come after me. I'm saying this has nothing to do with Islam or Muslims. This is about a state-sponsored action, ethnic cleansing of minorities. That state-sponsored action is supported by a US taxpayer money, and that is what we are countering. So I think because when we had the banner yesterday and I talked to the councilwoman about it, she said, "Oh, is this Sharia?" And I said, "Not quite Sharia. It's a state-sponsored program. It's a program, state-sponsored program." And I also beginning to talk about where the state is using faith as the weapon of mass destruction. Because it's a destruction of a community when you take the woman, the girl out of it, that minority community collapses, inwardly. How do you propagate, more Hindus or Christians or Sikhs when the girls are gone? So this is the faith being used as a weapon of mass destruction. It's an ethnic cleansing. So this is, Utsav can coach me. He always says, don't talk India and all that. So if I'm using WMD and he says, don't do it. But in my mind,
we have to say it in American context. To make it more relatable, we are trying to keep it America-centric.
And they understand these things. We are not talking about the yellow cake. We are talking about girls. And I think, to me, the most powerful image is that girl, standing and above the
On the
fence and saying,
rooftop.
"Help
On
me,
the
help me."
rooftop. Yeah.
That is more powerful to me and than all of the, other videos we have. So I think that is what I'm planning to use with our lawmakers. Also to energize our local Hindu community. They all go to the temple. Today, the temple is having the Visarjan. I wish I could do a forum in the temple like this time, but Navaratri is going to be big. And I'm thinking maybe that I have to talk to the temple administrators and say, if you have 2,000 people coming here, can you give me an opportunity to talk about a social cause that in addition to celebrating Durga, Lakshmi and Saraswati, can we remember the Durga, Lakshmi, Saraswati who are being lost in a part of the world?
Absolutely.
So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, this is a start. Let's keep going.
Thank you, Sudhaji. I think Anjali is online now. So
let me tell you, this is one issue which has been very close to my heart, and I was so happy that it's just been about 3-4 days since I became a part of this initiative called Chingari, and it is so heartening to see the efforts that your people are putting in. So I am in Phoenix, Arizona, and right now I'm trying to, because initially I have faced some resistance. The moment I mentioned the word Hindu, and Hindus in Pakistan, it was like, oh, why are you talking about Hindus only? Other girls also get raped. So, but anyways, I have been able to counter some of that, and there are some people who are ready to support me. So I have not been able to do the vigil. Sorry about that, because the time was very short and didn't have enough support. But I morally I was there, in spirit I was there, and I talked to a couple of people. And if we have enough people, we can open an Arizona chapter for this initiative called Chingari. I'm 100% in support of whatever you're doing, in heart, soul, mind, spirit, every way, and ethnic cleansing and of the Hindu girls. It just breaks my heart, because I think of them like my own daughters, and I just think that if we were the parents and if we were reaching out to the world, nobody to hear us, and instead people saying, oh, don't make it religion specific, I don't know what I would have done. Just wanted to conclude with this sentence that we can't go to Pakistan to fight those jihadis, but our strength is the purity of our intent and the compassion that we have within our souls. That is, though these are very strong weapons to reach out, and I'm sure that our voices will be heard.
Thank you, Anjali.
Thank you.
We have another guest here today. Little Maya Durga decided to join
Maya
us.
Maya is back.
She is joining the Chingari project, has been a vicarious volunteer, even though she hasn't reached 2 years yet. She's going to be 2 years in 2 months. I just wanted to introduce Maya for today. And then let's go to Deepti. Give us your thoughts, as we go around, and tell us what's the way forward.
Yeah, okay. So a couple of things. One is that I feel it is very important that we inculcate this Chingari within our families. So I think that is the basic forum where I grew up in a very politically woke family. Like I was mentioning, my father and his family had to migrate from Pakistan when my dad was like 5 years old, and we have grown up with hearing all these horror stories from my aunts and how they were hiding when they were migrating and all those things. Like one specific incident is that, and it was related to a boy, but one of my dad's cousins, so it's like their the thought process and their the thing that goes on in Pakistan, it is unbelievable. So they made this small little boy fill up a hookah for somebody, and that was enough for my family and it just breaks my heart. That was enough for my dad's family to leave that boy alone in Pakistan behind, because the saying was इन्होंने उनका हुक्का भर दिया तो ये हमारे नहीं रहे. तो मतलब like it was mind boggling. A little boy was left behind in Pakistan because he filled up a hookah for somebody sitting around there. And then, so I think that those the stories that we know and what we are seeing now, they should, we need to make our own families, our surroundings aware of these things, that these things are actually happening. I've read multiple books on India Pakistan partition, and this one story just it's been heavy on me since I was a kid, because I read that book when I was in school or something. So this person is migrating with the entire crowd, and he loses his daughter, his teenage daughter. And then when he reaches India, he is trying to find his teenage daughter within those refugee camps, and he finally is able to find her. And I'm sorry to say these things here, but so the moment he patted on her and on his daughter's back, she just turned around, took off all her clothes and laid down. Like, she was raped so many times that she did not know the difference. So I cannot even imagine what these parents go through in their minds when their teenage daughters are going through this nonsense. And we need to stand up. We need to make sure that people, I mean, the end goal, like Usavji said, we have to do something. We have to get these laws made against these this country who's like a global bully, and they think that they can do whatever they want. So I guess the fight is just getting started. It is an ethnic cleansing, like multiple people have said here, because they know that every other religion is much powerful. It is more like Hindu religion has so much strength, and that is what they are scared of, and that's why they are doing all this ethnic cleansing. That's what I wanted to say, Uttaraji.
We'll hear from Paroji. Paroji, if you have some closing thoughts, please share with us.
Thank you. So it's been overwhelming to listen to everybody. And kudos to Ankush ji and Neeti ji for just standing there in Times Square. And I have to share something from our vigil as well. When we put the banner up and we were getting ready, a person who was cycling stopped by, and he was from South Africa. He has recently moved, well, not recently, but several years he's been in the States, and he was recounting his journeys through various parts of the Middle East, and seeing actually the decline of non-Muslim communities in other countries in the Middle East, including Lebanon and Iraq and Iran. And he said, I'm so glad that you guys are raising your voice. This is something that's terrible, and I've seen the effects of this type of ethnic cleansing in other parts of the world. So the message needs to go out. There are people that are aware. They just, haven't found a forum. And transgenerational trauma is real. So what you're feeling inside is real. It's not made up. And we've all heard of the grooming gangs in Europe. Those are just extensions of what's going on in Pakistan. So if we don't speak about the atrocities that are happening in Pakistan and save these girls, we will not be able to save people within our own nations that we are citizens of currently. Thank you.
Thank you, Paroji. Vannaji, did you have any final thoughts before we move on to the closure of the show?
My final thoughts are, because I'm in media and campaign, I would like to see billboards around the country. That's my final thoughts.
Yes, Vannaji, in the month of October, we are doing billboards for Hindu Heritage Month in Times Square, and yeah. I think you're absolutely right that we should actually take the Chingari. We have to find out the timing, but let's figure it out. Thank you, Vannaji, for all the great work that you've done on all the videos and the visuals in the infographics and everything. So thank you very much. Usada, with that, we come to an end of this program. I want to thank all our guests. We had about 10 people joining us from around the country who took part on the Vigil, who were active in the project, people like Shreya, who are interns for the program. So for all of you and for all the people who actually took part in this program in one way or the other, I want to say thank you very, very much for being part of Chingari. I think the future generation of Pakistani Hindu girls will thank you forever for speaking up for them. These are the voiceless people to whom you have given the voice. I want to thank the Chingari team. I want to thank all the people who participated in the Vigil. I want to thank all the people who have been supporters online. There are thousands and thousands of people who are supporting this project, not only in US, but in Australia, and in Kenya, and in UK, and in all the other countries where we are getting, all the Hindu organizations are coming together on this issue. Cannot thank everyone enough. So with that, I want to thank Utsav Chakrabarti. Utsav is the executive director of Hindu Pact. I am Ajay Shah. I'm the president of VHPA, and this is Hindu Lounge. Hindu Lounge is brought to you by Hindu Pact. Hindu Pact is the policy research and advocacy initiative of World Hindu Council of America. Hindu Lounge comes live every Sunday at 11 o'clock Eastern, and we have now done 71 episodes, and we are thankful to everyone who watches us, who encourages us, who supports us. But this show will not end here. We will play the video, and this is a video on Chingari.
Today, we would like to share with you a human rights issue that has been largely overlooked in the media, and we believe you should know about it immediately. 96% of the population of Pakistan is Muslim. According to government figures, the remaining 4% includes Hindus, Christians, Parsis, Sikhs, and others. Pakistan's controlling theocratic government has made it impossible for religious minorities to become involved in or represented in politics, as written in their constitution.
Each year, it is estimated that 1,000 young Pakistani girls of minority religions are forcibly converted to Islam. Not only are they under the age of consent, but thrown into abusive marriages with much older men. These girls should be pursuing an education or marrying the person they love. Imagine those privileges being taken away from your own sister or even your own daughter. This is the story of 3 innocent girls in Pakistan every day. Taken from their homes, forced to live a life they don't understand, coerced into a non-consensual marriage with an older stranger, and abused. How many more girls need to be kidnapped, converted, and married off before we take unified action? Urgency for action comes from the inaction of the Pakistani government. In a majority of these kidnapping and forced conversion cases, rapists walk free and their victim is forced to remain married to them. All that is needed is a false document and the word of her husband, and a young girl is sentenced to a life of abuse. Many girls have publicly stated that they would rather die than be assaulted every day and held back from making their own choices.
जो हे चवनि था असांजो मज़हब तब्दील कयो आहे इहो छा आहे तव्हां रज़ा ख़ुशी था कयो
ना मूं पंहिंजी मजबूरी में कयो आहे
छा तव्हांखे मारियो पे
हा मूंखे मारियो बि मजबूरी में कयो आहे जे न करे हा हुते मुंहिंजा माइट मिट कोन हुआ
The Chingari Project is a social justice campaign aimed towards bringing awareness across the globe about the atrocities that young innocent Hindu girls face in Pakistan each day. Through informative advocacy, we seek to make our local U.S. representatives aware of the unstable religious situation in Pakistan and take further action to convey their disapproval.
Into your eyes and say everything will be okay. And where you're home is saving from the worst. May I secure that earth. May I secure that earth.
Thank you everybody for joining us, and have a nice week ahead.
Utsada will play the final music by Decibels, who always creates custom music for us to close out the program.